Hi, everyone. So today, Brett and I are going to go through the different options as it relates to billing your partners, lead buyers in your Boberdoo lead system. So with Boberdoo, you can basically handle the billing however you want, and in many cases, automate the process so that you can save some manual time or your employees' manual time and allow yourself to scale. So, just at a high level, we'll go through manual transactions, auto rebilling options, and invoicing options, and then talk a little bit about what the available gateways are, some relevant reports, and webhooks so that you can keep up to date on that payment and billing activity that occurs in your lead system.
Great. So yeah, let's start off by logging into a system here. So Scott, where would someone go if they wanted to do a manual transaction inside the box?
Sure. So with the partners, you can either work from a positive balance going down towards zero, or you can give them a credit limit, allowing them to go negative. Typically, you would do that in the cases of invoicing or some auto rebilling. We'll talk more about that in a second. But in many cases, you are working off of insertion orders. So the difference in ours between an insertion order and an invoice is that an insertion order is prepaid, an invoice is paid after those leads are delivered. So when you're talking about an insertion order, let's say just for the sake of arguments that Monica's Closet prepaid me $1,000 for 10 leads. The transactions tab, and there's a quick link right here, allows you to manually enter in those that payment of $1,000. Excuse me. Add notes. Maybe this is insertion order 123 from your invoicing system, and then that payment automatically credits that partner $1,000. Either then bringing them closer to zero if it's something like a partial payment, or if you're working from a prepayment, that would then give them $1,000 worth of buy.
So to confirm, this $1,000 is only in Boberdoo, though, right? It's not actually crediting anything else anywhere. Right?
That is correct. Yes, exactly. This is for the Boberdoo balance specifically. It is not tied to any credit card or anything like that.
Great.
Other manual transactions that come into play, you'll see we have both credits. Any of those would add money to the partner account, and charges. So any of those would deduct in the cases of chargebacks or setup fees, things like that can all be just taken off from that available balance on a manual basis. And in many cases, you might have a custom type of transaction, whether it is a credit or a charge, that is in your workflow, and we can build custom account operations for these transactions if you need.
And also, just add this, we do have an option to add these payments manually via API, not only through the UI. It also can be done as part of settings API.
Absolutely. That would be
submit payment.
Not the one that I clicked on. It would be the submit payment API. Allows you to manually do those things just like Brent said.
Okay, so that's the manual side. That seems like a lot of work. What if I just want to do auto billing?
Well, my question for you would be, what type of auto billing do you want to set up? So if we go into the settings and add fund settings, you'll see we have several different gateways available. And then if you look within each that has auto rebilling functionality, there's a lot to digest on this page. Most of these at the top here are common across all of the gateways. So in this case, do you have a minimum amount that you will allow them to input? And if you want them to be able to input any dollar amount, $121, or do you want them to choose from a drop-down of set funding amounts to try and clean up that UI or that user experience a bit? Both of the options are available across all of those gateways. Then you have whether it's a test or live gateway, and then your specific credentials. These are found directly in your respective merchant account. And so what we're really looking at here, so you'll see there's options for multiple merchant accounts, but then we have, the descriptions. These are going to be the things that show up. So lead sales or something like that would be what would be entered there. And then we get to the big one. So how do you want to rebill your partners? This is a system-wide setting. So the two options are essentially to bring them to zero. So in that case, you're giving them a credit and bringing them to zero on some periodic basis. More clients we see using the remaining credit trigger. In this case, they are prepaying and then working down towards zero. Once they cross over some predetermined trigger, their credit card is automatically billed. The two main benefits of this trigger-based options: number one, you are not extending credit to your clients. That allows you to scale more. And then two, because it's based off of when they cross over that low balance threshold, it can be at whatever cadence for that particular buyer, whether it's daily, weekly. But as your leads fluctuate in delivering to that partner, their trigger base then only bills them when appropriate. In this option here, sorry, go ahead, Brett.
I was going to say, just looking at the settings we have right now selected, how would that translate? Charge all below zero and daily.
Yep. So when we are looking at charge all below zero, that's the question, is the frequency. When are you going to do it? We do have clients that only bill on the first of the month or on a specific day of the week. But this option is our strong recommendation because it limits your credit. And it's a good alternative to people that maybe want to bill for every lead received. This gives you that flexibility, especially in low volume lead verticals, where if you sell them one lead in the day, you charge them for the one lead. If you sold them 3 or 5 in the day, you charge them for that amount of leads. It limits your risk because you're charging them every day. And as you'll see, we have settings so that you can automatically pause partners that do have credit card fails so that you don't continue to sell them leads. So if you are going to go to charge below zero, we would strongly recommend the daily option. As we continue down, we have some options for clients that charge subscription-based pricing. So you can set up a monthly reoccurring charge. For example, it's $250 a month for our lead program plus a specific cost per lead. And then those can be set up either on a monthly or weekly basis. Coming down here, we have some other options or add-ons. You can hide countries just to default to the US if you're only working in the US. And then there is an optional add-on at authorize.net if you want to accept ACH through the merchant account. But that is something that you do have to enable on the authorize.net side. Next up, we have some, again, more settings for things for the descriptions. We do have options where we can customize your lead system around some coupon code during, let's say, a sign up or the funding process. There is some customization involved in there, but the framework is in place. And then finally, any text that you would want to present to the partners on that billing page. Refund policies, things like that are good to put right here so that they're aware of it when they are funding their accounts.
Nice, thank you. So yeah, those fall true for all of these payment gateways, except for PayPal. PayPal is the only one that does not have the auto rebill functionality. They only offer the one-time payment. Authorize.net, CIM, Braintree, Stripe, all have that auto rebilling option technique.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was thinking maybe we go ahead and take a look. So the other use case here would be, what our recommendation is, which would be the remaining credit trigger. When this option is selected, it is actually individual partner settings that are going to determine when that auto rebilling takes place. So again, if we're looking at Monica's Closet, we have the quick link to the invoicing and billing tab. So on this page, you have all your settings related to the credit cards. So as mentioned before, you can set so that if a partner's credit card fails, that they are automatically paused. And then that helps to, again, prevent you from selling leads to a client that doesn't have a valid form of payment on file with you. The next thing that we're going to look at here is the remaining credit trigger. So there's a default value that we can set, but you can edit or adjust each individual partner's credit trigger. What you would typically, our clients will typically do is bring them in on some standard, every time it's a $500, or every time they cross over below $100, automatically bill the credit card $500, and then adjust that trigger based off of the daily or weekly spend of an individual partner, so you can adjust it up to account for larger lead buyers. You'll see some other options in here that we're going to jump into another system to take a look at. It has the credit card enabled, and you'll see the next setting here, which is the real-time real bill amount. So if we hop over to our lead system, you'll see in addition to that low credit trigger, we have the real-time rebill amount. So this is where you can set that fixed rebill amount. In this system here, every time the partner falls below $50, the credit card is billed $500. And so just simply switching this or adjusting this value allows you then to bill the same amount, very similar to how Google bills, or at least used to bill their invoice for their Google ads. But basically, the action of crossing over this $50 threshold triggers this transaction.
Let's say I wanted to put a cap, though. I want to have the auto rebill on, all right, and charge them $500, but I don't want to keep charging them a bunch of times in a single month. Is there a cap or a maximum monthly spend I can set?
Oh, you called it exactly, Brad.
That.
Right there. So that's exactly what this does to help control. In your example here, I don't want this partner said I can't spend more than $2,000 a month for my lead budget. You can control that here, which then will limit the amount of auto rebills for that partner. You'll also see in this system, we had touched on some things like monthly reoccurring charges. And that's where we can schedule these types of things to charge a fixed amount on the first of the month or on a specific day of the week. And that would be for subscription-based pricing. So while we're here, if we take a look at this system, which has a Braintree profile set up, there's options for you as an admin to add a credit card right in the UI. And then we'll also take a look. The partners can add it directly in their system as well. Once that credit card is added, your system does not store any of your company's credit card or your partner's credit card info. That is where the CIM integration with the respective gateway comes into play. They store the credit card information, and then we API the amount with the partner and the CIM ID so that this keeps your system PCI compliant because your system does not store the credit card. So once that credit card is uploaded, you have full flexibility of how and when to charge this partner, whether it is you doing it manually in the partner admin, whether it is automatically done according to rebill settings, and I would certainly encourage you to do that to the extent that you can. Or if you just want to let your partners log into their account, put down their credit card, and fund proactively whenever they want, that can all be then set up so you can service the most amount of lead buyers in your vertical. All right. Where do you want to go next, Brett?
So yeah, we looked at credit cards. We looked at the act of billing. What happens after? Let's look at invoices.
So if you don't use, or your partners don't use credit cards, or if you're dealing with, let's say, resellers or lead gen companies that you invoice, those settings can also be set up. If we go back to the invoicing and billing tab, you'll notice there are two top menu tabs. In this case, you would want to credit limit either a specific amount or no limit, allowing that partner to go negative. And then you can build one-off invoice reports here, determine what fields are in this, and this is more of that line item invoice that would be generated here. However, if you're looking to automate this flow, we do have the invoice manager, and it gives you a lot of options to automate the generation of an invoice and send it out to this invoice recipient email address here. So many of our clients, especially getting started, will put their own account receivable email in here, send all of the automatically generated invoices to one person who can then review and forward them onto the client. And then we have other clients that send that directly to their lead buyer automatically through this setting here, and then allow those partners to, for example, log in and pay with a credit card or send a check or a wire and then fund the account through that manual transaction. So for this invoice manager, you can set the date range. Really, you're setting it up for the very first invoice. After that, the next invoice automatically starts with the first lead sale after the last invoice period. So obviously, you can customize the subject and body. You can apply overall discounts. But then when we get into the automation of it, if it is enabled, you can then choose weekly or monthly as far as when that invoice is sent, whether to include payments or credits and refunds from that period. And then all invoices here will be generated automatically. They will filter down. But again, this allows you from an automation standpoint to aggregate all of your invoice buyers, send them to the appropriate accounts receivable person, and get that into your flow so that you can get paid. Yeah, so don't typically do it on the fly, but since there were leads sold by this partner or to this partner, we can simply just click that generate invoice, and then the PDF that you can have automatically emailed is sent. It looks something like this. We have options to include your logo if you have that in the lead system. And then this is the invoice. It is an aggregate of all the leads sold at the per price. So if there were 10 leads sold at $2 a piece, that would be all aggregated into the line item in this invoice. Now, once that invoice is generated, you'll see the status is not paid. And so your partners can go and log in to fund the account. Or let's say they sent you a wire. You can simply click the Make Payment button. You'll see that the status has been changed to paid. And if we go to that Transactions tab, that invoice was paid automatically, giving them that credit limit now once that payment's been made. So you can get your billing into an efficient process that again, can be scaled through automation.
Great. Yep. And so it can be automated. It can be manually run. Both of those can be set up. On that topic, what about other reports that deal with handling of payments?
Sure. So there's one big report, obviously, that that you want to reference here, and that is the payments report. So this will look quite different from each partner or each lead system. You can filter down by successful transactions, failed transactions, or if you did refund on a credit card through the lead system. And so this is a really good timed report to set up, send to your accounting person or send to yourself to review. You'll see all of the successful transactions as well as any failed transactions. So credit card attempts, you will be surprised when you see, some clients make 3 or 4 or 5 attempts to charge the credit card, all get declined before it finally goes through. And those may indicate a higher level of risk, which you can then control through the credit limit settings so that you don't expose yourself to a client who might have a higher potential to not pay their bill. In terms of reports, like as at least it relates around billing, do you have any other ones that you use, Brett? That's the
As
big
always,
drive.
I will always plug the just to always see total prices. I mean, I always will plug the admin leads report. You always have the breakdown of every single lead broken down, having every single lead price. Just for
Right,
way,
yeah.
always want to have
Refunded.
that one in there. You know if a lead's refunded, not refunded exactly. Those will always be in those admin lead reports. But for payments, anything that's going to aggregate it into just the payments, the best one is the one you showed, the payments report.
I guess along
After
those
that,
lines, yeah, right. So
let's say webhooks would be probably
yeah,
the next logical.
yeah. I mean, when it comes to scale, the webhooks can really help a lot. So there's a lot of different things, limits reached, and so on. But we have several that are related to payments.
Yeah, if you just
So
type
you'll
in the word
see,
payment here, you can see all the
yeah.
different ones.
So, and why these are different webhook events, whether it's a manual payment, payment on the account, a failed versus a success, is that these webhooks can serve dual purpose. So let's just take a very basic case of an email. You can set up dynamically to go to the partner billing email, and automated email using these magic strings when their account successfully funds. So in many cases, with a transaction ID, you can build your own receipt that gets automatically emailed to the partner upon a successful transaction. Or you can notify your account managers through a Slack channel that a funding was successful. And those would be to help with account management, whether that's via Slack or via email to a sales rep that's managing the account. The idea is you can use that trigger to notify different people in your organization to reach out. Hey, thanks for funding so and so. If you fund again, we'll give you an extra $100. Or vice versa. When we look at the negative side, payment on an account failure, this is certainly something you want the account manager to be aware of right away. You want to send that email to the partner directly, telling them, "Hey, your account was your payment failed. We're going to pause your account until you update your payment method." The idea here is to try and drive action and correct that issue as soon as possible. So payment is a good one, and then these often will tie into things like refunds. But for the purposes of this here, the payment ones would be the first, let's say, 3 or 4 that I would start with.
Yeah, and as you said, they can double as being a receipt for a payment, and as being internal notifications. Best of both worlds with only one setup. And the great thing, right, about webhooks, they're set and forget. Right, you set it the one time, you shouldn't have to worry about it after that. So the initial task of getting the webhook set up, if you have any questions, feel free to let us know.
Absolutely.
So those are kind of the main parts of it. If we go back to thinking about invoicing and rebilling and the gateway options that we offer, what are those different ones that we offer out of the box, and which ones do we recommend?
Absolutely. So we have these four as far as the potential gateways. As Brett mentioned, PayPal specifically is for one off transactions only. PayPal does not have a rebilling functionality, but Braintree is owned by PayPal, so this is essentially what their auto rebilling functionality is. To date, Authorize.net CIM is the most popular because you're not required to have an Authorize.net account, only the CIM account, which is an add on. So there are many merchant accounts that work with Authorize.net. So you're not restricted to only to their merchant account like you would be with Braintree. So most people are using Authorize.net, but this is a changing industry. We've seen more companies get denied by either Braintree or Authorize.net for a variety of different reasons. And so we're excited to have the Stripe integration. Right now, as it stands on July 3rd, it is only for one off transactions, but we have built the auto rebilling functionality. Brett and his team are testing that internally right now. And so we would expect by mid month to be able to release the auto rebilling functionality in Stripe system wide. And so then you would have the same rebilling options in Stripe that you do with Authorize.net and Braintree, namely auto rebilling around a trigger or a timed base event.
Yes, those details, what we offer through the boberdoo system.